So I haven't made a video in a month. My work has been scheduling me pretty crazily, and I've been making money, but there were some issues. So I worked a second job to make sure that I could continue to have a place to live. Now it's a month later and I'm going crazy trying to think of something to talk about. Then it hit me. Hey Baron, remember those things that people hated on anime YouTube? What if you did one of those? So yeah, welcome to my version of a top 10 list, except that's not really what this is. This is just a bunch of my favorite things about a certain topic in one video. And because it's me, we gon' get into some of the few things that I'm distinctly qualified to talk about. Soundtracks, baby. Now for those that don't know. I make film scores sometimes in my spare time. It's fun. So from a person that makes the stuff, here's a list of my personal favorite anime OSTs of all time. And we're just gonna get the good ones everybody knows out of the way. God, what is there to say about Champloo? For one, I told myself I would only put bebop or Champloo in one spot. And if you know me, you know that I like jazz and instrumental music. So why, might you ask, am I putting Champloo in front of one of the best OSTs of all time? Because it's everyone's favorite. That's boring. Let's talk about the show that merged the bridge between hip-hop and score in a way that no one has really been able to do since. Departure, the album created by Nujabes and Fat John, is a true triumph in scoring. The mostly down-tempo rhythms and very subdued tone overall lead a beautiful contrast to the vibrant world we were presented with in Champloo. One could also say, and I apologize in advance, my inner dad is saying I can't not make this joke, that Departure was a departure from what most people were used to in anime. And that's a lot of the reason why it has almost 4 million views on YouTube on almost every single upload of the album. Now, let's get into some personal favorites of mine. Please, let's just talk about jazz. Baccano is an interesting beast of a show. Blending the world of the Prohibition era with the supernatural is no simple task, but being able to blend that with a horn and sax section is something else entirely. Much like the bodily fluids of certain characters in the show, Baccano bleeds a blood-red velvety coat of style from your speakers from the word go. And just to remind you, you guys know my rule about saxophone solos. If you thought Initial D's Eurobeat soundtrack made you drive faster, let's just say Redline's soundtrack throws a nitrous line in, as well as adding a few more cylinders to your engine you didn't know you had. Redline is a movie about cars in space going really fast when you get down to it, so the soundtrack reflects this by pumping an adrenaline-fueled cocktail of drum and bass, house, digital rock, industrial, funk, soul, and pop through your speakers while you're watching Redline's absolutely jaw-dropping hand-drawn animation. It's a pure rush, and it's really hard to put down once you've heard a few of these tracks. So Taku Iwasaki was sitting in his office or whatever one day when the entire studio of White Fox came in and said, "Score an anime for us." And he was like, "Oh, okay." And then they said, "Oh, hey, by the way, it's 12-hour-long episodes. I hope that's okay." And then he was like, "I was expecting a challenge." The inherently Japanese-sounding soundtrack to Katanagatari is anything but a challenge. Those familiar with the story know it's a journey that encompasses a lot of different emotions, and the orchestration does not disappoint. Truly beautiful runs of woodwinds and strings breathe life into the more melancholic parts of the show, while the fight scenes are accompanied by some of the most bombastic tracks I've heard outside of Hiroyuki Sawano. We'll get to him later, but that's not the whole thing here. There's another entire volume I haven't even talked about. The orchestral bits are really only one half of the soundtrack. That's the first volume. The second volume is all the little inserts and tracks that utilize synth and digital elements. These are the ones you're going to hear during some of the more weighty and dialogue-heavy bits of the show, as well as a lot of the combat sequences. These are equally representative of the whole Katanagatari experience and should not be overlooked. Oh shit, it's Kenji Kawai, bringing us his trademark orchestration he's known for. Ever since Ghost in the Shell, this motherfucker has produced some of the most diverse and varied scoring work I've ever heard, and Mob Psycho is no exception. This show is visually insane, and it really needed that varied stylization from the beginning, so Kawai was perfect for the role. These tracks have so much character and present the world of Mob so well that I had to include this in the video. Mob Psycho 100 soundtrack has instrumentation ranging from a cheap keyboard from a pawn shop to illustrate the silliness of a situation, an eraser being dragged back and forth over a table to induce tension and strain, to the kazoo-like lead melody you hear in the opening scene. It all fittingly sounds like the inside of a psyche that is about to explode. Do you know who this guy is? Do you have any idea? You should. This dude is Kevin Penkin, and he is making strides in the anime scoring world. His ability to use minimal instrumentation to achieve incredible emotional weight is only part of the proof that you need. Maiden Abbas's soundtrack is an orchestral orgasm of strings, horns, and piano that Penkin has used to punctuate the harrowing adventure that our main characters have ahead of them. Traditional orchestration is rare nowadays. The difference in most productions is almost night and day. You remember that piece I played for you earlier? You know, the one that I made? That is completely digital. It sounds alright, but I had to make it really loud and reverb heavy just to mask that. Now, cut over to Kevin Penkin, and he's in a Vienna sound hall with a full engineering team and a chamber orchestra doing God's fucking work. In my own words, spoken from the man himself.
That's pretty rad.
The spiritual realm of Mushishi is unique, and therefore requires unique instrumentation. That whirling sound is only one of the many ways I'm still inspired by Mushishi's soundtrack. Varying from our previous entry, a lot of the design here is digital. It's wholly otherworldly, using large moments of hesitation and silence to punch emotional moments, then using its minor key progression to evoke this sense of melancholy that can only be described as uncomfortably serene. Then, when the plot turns tense, we hear sparse percussion and hammered bells to further enhance the mystique. And when the action does turn up, it does not disappoint. One of my favorite OSTs of all time, and still one of my favorite OPs as well.
I walked 10,000 miles to see you.
The Monogatari series is considered by many to be a casual filter to anime watchers. It's incredibly dialogue heavy, and the fact that it's in 14 seasons and 3 movies, it's a lot to take in for sure. But it's also all over the place, much like its soundtrack. One moment it's a lovely piece featuring Rhodes, guitar and strings, and another it's incredibly bombastic guitars and drums. Casting a wide net isn't even a good analogy for this at this point. It's like fishing with dynamite. Highly effective. Listening back through this OST, I've rediscovered themes from this show that I take for granted. Stuff that I don't recognize until I hear the melody and say, wait, this is the song that happens during the thing, and I remember how impactful that sound was for that scene in question. One of my favorite tracks will always be Imitation. There's so much character there. Castle in the Sky holds a special place in my heart as my favorite Miyazaki movie, and it's for the reason you might think, considering I've been doing a video on it for a few minutes. Laputa is a literal sky castle, and Joe Hisaishi utilizes an entire orchestra to make it take flight. From Pazu's fanfare to the main theme you remember for years to come, the orchestration, the composition, the little things added to make it sound that much more real in your mind. This dude is my equivalent of a Japanese John Williams. Simply a spectacular sound from start to finish. So now that you've heard a few of my favorite soundtracks, I bet some of you are wondering who my favorite composer in the anime world is. Hiroyuki Sawano has a very particular sound that most anime watchers can pick out. He's responsible for the soundtracks of many an anime in the Western Eye, such as Attack on Titan, Blue Exorcist, Seraph of the End, Kabaneri of the Iron Fortress, Gundam Unicorn, Guilty Crown, and possibly most notably for me, the soundtrack to Kill la Kill, which is one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. I was going to talk just about that one, but I realized very quickly that he deserves an entire bit for himself. Most notably, he's known for a particular scoring trope affectionately dubbed the Sawano drop. You know the bit from any of these shows. I can make an entire other video, which I'm probably gonna do at some point, on this technique and why it works so well, but I'm gonna need some help for that one, so I'll have to call in a favor. And that is a completely incomprehensible list of some of my favorite anime soundtracks in no particular order. Obviously, there's ones like Cowboy Bebop, Wolf's Rain, Code Geass, the Jimmy Neutron soundtrack, you know what I mean, stuff that I decidedly did not put in the video. I just figured that those are so well used that I might pick out some of the different ones that I hadn't seen put in lists like these. I really hope you guys enjoyed watching this and look forward to some more interesting content like this soon. I guarantee it.